very important halacha. You got to make sure you're home to do b'dikas chometz, and you got to be home at the beginning of that. So the minhag is we do daven ma'ariv first usually, if you can. But it's a mitzvah which is chal. The chiv is chal at the beginning of the night, the 14th. So you can't sort of rock up at midnight. It's wrong to rock up later. It's chazal u'mechayev at the beginning of the night, and we do a bittul. We do a bittul straight away at night time. There's two versions of what the bittul is, but everyone's got it in the Agodas or the Siddurim or the little things you get. Now, when you do a bittul, you've got to know what you're talking about. So, if you're fluent in Aramaic, very good. Kol chamir v'chamir d'ikir v'hayveza d'chazisei or the lechazisei d'biate d'lebiate d'habihefki k'afra ta'ara. So if you know Aramaic, we've got English translation, very good, but it's got to be in a language which you understand because you're making it hefka. And so you've got to know what you're saying. You can't just, it's not imaginary, it's for real. So if you want to, you can read it in English. It's not English or Masters or anything like that. You can say Yiddish if you want. You can say, as long as the point is you have to understand it. Understand what you're saying. A very beautiful story is one of the visions of the Rebbe. I don't remember the names. So after he finished B'dikas Chometz, so he took the candle and he put it near his heart. And he said to his son, he said, we've done B'dikas Chometz Gashmi, now we have to do B'dikas Chometz Ruchni. So his son smiled at his father and he said, but you only have to check a Makam Shemachnisim by Chometz. He said, your heart, your neshama, you don't put any Chometz in it, you don't need to check it. You don't need to check it. But again, as we mentioned yesterday, it's a serious thing. And nowadays it's a little bit more difficult because that women have got the house ready well in Cleaver Pesach long before. So Rafal's going to rock. He said that you should leave one room, or part of the kitchen or something, leave something not done. So on there you'll do a proper bedika, a meaningful bedika on Leil Yudala. This year's Leil Yudala, of course. Okay, now here's a very good one. In the morning when you burn your chometz, so the Ramah points this out, it's very, very interesting. You should burn the chometz first and only then say the bittul afterwards. Because if you say the bittul beforehand, it's not your chometz anymore. You're not becoming the mitzvah burning your chometz. It's a chometz shahafka. Right? So therefore, you're going to be particular to burn it first, or set it on fire first, and then you say the bittul. And then you're covered. You've done a bir chometz good to everybody. We burn it. I mean, I think you don't have to burn it. That's called to Rabbi Huda. He learns it from Noisa, like Noisa, you burn it, you burn chometz, you don't get a shava. We don't actually pass now that, you can throw it out. Very interesting, if let's say your bins are picked up on Erev Pesach, so if you've dumped it in your bin, that's also a bir chometz, because actually by law, once it's in the bin, it actually doesn't belong to you anymore, it actually belongs to the council. It's very interesting. If you go around mooching through people's bins, you can actually get prosecuted for taking council property. It's a very interesting legal thing. So it's a good hefka, putting in your bin. So you take your bin, wheel your bin out in the street, they'll get picked up whenever. They come around and do special Pesach collections, but they always turn up late after the Zman Issa. It doesn't matter, because that's a proper Gesundheit hefka, putting it out in your bins. Okay, so there's a few more little details of B'dikas Chometz.
This year there's no burn.
Sorry?
This year we don't burn.
Friday.
You burn on Friday? You do everything, yeah, but the bittul you take away till Shabbos. Yeah, because it's not Zman. You got another day's worth of chometz in your house for Shabbos. So the bittul you wait, but the burning you just keep to the times of a regular year. Okay, so we were doing yesterday about the egel.
Why does it have to be in the morning though?
I think it's so that if you start tampering one year after the next year you're going to make mistakes. That's the real reason. You got to keep your rikilas. You'd be surprised how when you change that, it'll be very interesting. If some things go back to normal after COVID finishes, are people really going to go back to normal? Now there's only been 1 year disruption, but we'll see. It's actually much bigger. I think people have actually got used to the luxury, well, not luxury, but it's the idea of not going to shul, having a back garden minyan or the Cavendish Road minyan and things like that. People enjoy it. People have gotten so used to being there, and it's very relaxed, and there probably is no sermon, and people enjoy it. So it's going to be very interesting. In London, there's loads of these street minyanim. in marquees and whatever, and people have really got used to it. So it'll be very interesting to see how 1 year's disruption, the impact. Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu is sitting in Shemayim, and he's just enjoyed himself for 40 days learning Miziv HaShekhinah. So, when all of a sudden, Kosh Baruch says to Moshe, get out. Clear off. Go. Can you imagine what a shock he must have gone? Yeah? Ellie, you know that feeling?
Yeah.
Right? You're sitting there enjoying, happy, and 40 days, 40 nights he's been with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, enjoying his learning. Yeah? Mishnah at night, Torah Shabbat Peh at night, Torah Shabbat time during the day. That's when he knew when night and day was. And all of a sudden, Kosh Baruch says, Moshe, out. It must have been quite a shock. Yeah? Now, he's not done anything wrong, has he? So it's even more of a shock. So Kosh Baruch Hu says to him, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe. Now Vayidaber, of course, is Lashon Kosher, very harshly. Lech raid. Now it's a bit of repetition there. He could have just said raid, go down. But Lech is go, and raid. Kishichos Amcha Asher Ha'elesom Yeretz Mitzrayim. Because your people, who you brought up in Mitzrayim, have corrupted. So Rashi brings the Chazal, it's a reference to the Erev Rav. So it says, Raid Megedulascha, go down from your greatness. I only gave you greatness because of Klal Yisrael. They don't deserve it anymore, so you've got to go. Now, what's Amcha? It's the Erev Rav. Listen to these words. Shekibalta me atzmacha. You were makabel them, v'giyartom, and made them gerim. When did Moshe make them gerim? Did they keep the first Seder night? You'd only bring that Korban Pesach if you had a bris milah. So when was Moshe Rabbeinu megay them? Don't know. But now, here's the Kosh Baruch Hu said, V'loi nimlachta bi. You didn't ask me, is it a good idea or not?
Isn't it a illusion of not
Emunah.
No, not of citizen.
It can be. Yeah, actually, someone's not from here. It could be Lashon Ger. But I think here we're talking about coming to Har Sinai. Being Makabel the Torah.
Once he took them out.
I mean, he brought them out of Mitzrayim, so they became Gerim automatically by being virtue. They're not in the place where they came from. Oh, very clever. Very clever. You turned them into Gerim sort of thing. Yeah, by virtue of taking them out. Very clever. V'amarta, Moshe Rabbeinu had a cheshbon. Toiv sheyidbeku Gerim b'shechina. It's a good idea. These are people who are very impressed with the Maccas. They saw the truth. They saw the truth. Were very impressed, and they said, Hashem Echad. And Moshe thought it was good idea to take them. Heim shichasu v'hishchisu. It's they have corrupted and made Klal Yisrael corrupt. Now, so what's this lech raid? So lech means go. But raid means go down from your madrega. So we see something incredible here. How come in previous generations we had greater leaders? Because Klal Yisrael were greater. Klal Yisrael produced the leader. If they're on this level, you get Moshe Rabbeinu. If you're on that level, you get Yeshua ben Nun. If you go on that level, you get Eli HaKohen. That level, you get Shmuel HaNovi. So since when Klal Yisrael reached this level of Nasav and Ishma, Otam Rishon Kodim Achet, they had Moshe Rabbeinu in Shemayim 40 days getting the Torah for them. But now they've dropped. Kosh Baruch Hu says, your level of Nevuah goes with it. It drops a little bit as well. So he wasn't allowed to stay up there on the mountain. Or wherever he was, he got a position wherever he was. Yeah, he wasn't allowed to stay there. Now think about this, yeah? Imagine you're a field marshal, you reached the highest level you can reach, and all of a sudden you get demoted through no fault of your own.
If he wouldn't have come down, then he would have stayed there forever. I mean,
well, eventually would come down the mountain, yeah, but lech raid is a repetition, isn't it? Could have just said raid, go down, or lech, go, yeah? But the two together means go, but raid on top of it, it's you're dropping your madrega. Okay? Now, because Baruch Hu told him what they've done. And this is very interesting, because later on in history, time Yeshua ben Nun and Achon stole the stuff, and Yeshua ben Nun asked the Kosh Baruch Hu, well, what's gone, what were the Kosh Baruch Hu said, I'm not telling you. You go make a goyrel, you'll find out through a goyrel, you'll find out what's happened. But here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him. Why? Because here was Neget to Moshe. He had to know why he's lost his chashivas in Shemayim. So he says, Saru maher min haderech asher tzivisim. They've turned away very quickly from the entire path of the Torah. Avodah Zarah is a complete negation of Kol Torah Kula. There's no half measures. It's either all in or it's all out in terms of emunah. Also, they have egel masecha. They made this egel. Vayishtachavu they bowed to it. Vayizbach they offered up kabbonos. Vayomer elei lehechis asher helucha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Pause. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't say anything. Doesn't say anything. What's right? So Kosh Baruch Hu continues. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Ro'isi es ha'om hazeh v'hinei am k'shei oiref hu. Now, Klal are stubborn people. What does it mean stubborn? What's the problem of being stubborn? Is there a problem of being stubborn? So the Safana says an amazing thing. He says the problem of being stubborn is you don't listen to when people want to make you better. If you're stubborn to do the right thing, it's a great thing, it's a great midah to have. But the downside to every midah, you've got to know when to use it, when not to use it. Klal Yisrael, unfortunately, they sort of dig in with this midah, it's an entrenched midah, and it has a downside to it that they're not going to listen when people tell them what to do, even if it's the right thing to do. Okay? Now, think about it. Klal Yisrael now have done the ultimate chutzpah, the ultimate slap in the face that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Avodah Zarah. Now, when somebody upsets you and you get really, really hurt, there's two ways how you can react to it. Ramodcha, what are the two ways you can react? Someone really, really, really hurt you. It's the most possible way. So there's two ways you can react. One is you can clobber the guy, yeah, and you feel better afterwards. Get really angry with him. That's one mahalach. Or somebody can appease you. He can talk to you and calm you down, and talk to you and calm you down. And you calm down.
You know what I do? Put my hands down and say, Pesach Yisadecha.
Yeah.
They should bless you.
Have
Pretty good.
you done that?
Do it ginger all the time.
Right. I know somebody told me, his nephew told me, he said his uncle is a very, very big property guy, very, very big. And he said, my uncle's got a munah pshuta. He said, I said, how do you know? He said, whenever my dad's on the phone to him and he's panicking away about a deal's about to go pear-shaped, I hear him say on the other end of the line, what are you worried about? It's not in our hands. It's not in our hands. What are you worried about? What are you panicking for? So maybe that's right. You put your hands up. Does it work? Is it a scholar?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Do you put some money in the red one? That's pushing as well. It'll come and say, hey, like you're at it.
If it goes through.
If it goes through. Right. So, there's two ways. There's two ways of appeasing. When I say, Kaviyachal here, Klal Yisrael have given the biggest insult to HaKadosh Baruch Hu possible. They've allowed, and not all of them, but they've allowed the service of an Avodah Zarah right on Har Sinai. Right on Har Sinai. So says the Arachaim HaKadosh, there's two possibilities now. One is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could, HaKadosh Baruch Hu let his anger rip through Klal Yisrael, destroy Klal Yisrael. But there was another way where you give him a fire. Now, he says something amazing. He says, what happened at the Mabul? At the Mabul, HaKadosh Baruch Hu delayed the Mabul till Mr. Shalach, who passed away, his shiva finished. And he brings the Chazal, there were other Tzaddikim at the time also, he waited till they died. And only then did he bring the Mabul, because Baruch Hu will never upset a Tzaddik who doesn't deserve to be upset, get upset. So very interesting there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu almost asks Rishus from Moshe Rabbeinu. I've got two options here. I can take the anger route, the Charoin Af route, and solve this problem. Or there's another route. But to be able to do the Charoin Af, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks Rishus and Moshe Rabbeinu, I don't want you to be upset. So look at what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Va'ata hanichali, leave me alone. V'yicha api bohem va'achali. My anger will let rip, whatever the word is. Yeah, go forth and completely wipe them out. And don't worry about any promises to the others, and don't worry about anything else. I'll start a new nation from you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, leave me alone and I will do this. What does that imply? If you don't leave me alone, I won't do it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Pesach to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'll let you decide. Quite incredible. But something has to happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to leave it as it was. So here we got the beautiful words, the famous words of Moshe Rabbeinu. So it says, Vayechal Moshe es Pnei Hashem Eleikav. Chazal say the word Vayechal is Lashon Choyle. Moshe Rabbeinu got ill. The thought of Klal Yisrael being wiped out made Moshe Rabbeinu ill. It wasn't COVID either. Yeah? Vayomer, and you see now Moshe Rabbeinu's words make a lot of sense now. He's using the other approach. If Moshe Rabbeinu is Mephias HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that will also work. And now the words all make a lot of sense. First he said, Moshe, what are you so angry about? It's no use making a nation out of me. Because you said to them, do you know why you got to keep the Torah? Because that was the Mechayev on Klal Yisrael. If you start a new nation from my kids, they never went to Mitzrayim, so it's not going to work. The Hischayvus to keep the Torah won't apply to my kids. It only applies to Klal Yisrael. Number one. Number two, there'll be a big chilul Hashem. Lama yomer Mitzrayim le'mo b'roh hitzom la'aragos on behorim l'chalosim al pnei adama. They will say, because Moshe didn't take them out to, Moshe Rabbeinu was making all these promises, and all these things. They'll say, oh, it's all nonsense. And therefore, put the two together. We've got to go this way. Accept appears. And then Moshe Rabbeinu came along with another Gavaldi Yataina. He said, you want to start a new nation from me, they'll have one Zechus, my Zechus. But if the Zechus of Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov is not good enough, how's my Zechus going to be good enough? And the Chazal give a mashal, you take a stool with 3 legs, if that can't stand, how are you going to get a stool with 1 leg to stand? It's not going to stand. It'll collapse. So he says, Avraham, he made these promises to the others. You can't do it for me. It's not going to work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, unbelievable. HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepts it. Vayinochem Hashem al hara asher dir b'lasos la'amah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepted the approach of Pius. He said, okay, I'm not going to wipe them out now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu relented from this Charon after wipe them out now. That's gone. Now look at this. Brilliant. Vayifen, Moshe Rabbeinu turned. Vayered Moshe min hahar. Carrying the luchos. The writing was on all sides. You could read it from any side. Alright. What's Vayifen? Eddie, what does it mean Vayifen? Ellie, what's Vayifen?
Turned.
Now, you're not allowed to turn your back on your Rebbe when you leave. Yeah, even in shul, you shouldn't turn your back to the Aron HaKodesh. So how can you turn his back on HaKodesh Baruch Hu? What's Vayifen? Says the Aruch HaKodesh, the Vayifen was in his mind. So HaKodesh Baruch Hu was Mephias for Klal Yisrael. When he turned to go down the mountain, of course he backed off. But in his mind, when he got to Klal Yisrael, he gave them what for? Or did he tell them off? Okay, so the way he was speaking to HaKodesh Baruch Hu, that approach of Pius, that was to HaKodesh Baruch Hu. But when coming down the mountain, Moshe Rabbeinu in his mind formulated what he was going to say to Klal Yisrael when he got there. So he comes down the mountain, and he meets Yoshua, and Yoshua said, I can hear sounds of shouting. Moshe Rabbeinu said, it doesn't sound good to me. He gets close to the camp. He saw from a distance, so what happens? There's a famous Chazal that the Oisius of the Luchos flew back to Shemayim. Why did they fly back there and then? So the Aruch HaKodesh says not to enter the camp while there was no Avodah Zarah there. Very, very interesting. Now, so what angered Moshe the most was the Mecholos. It's one thing doing something wrong, but to dance, Macharakida, yeah, that's really wrong. So Vayichaf Moshe, and he throws them down. Vayishabes Mitachas. Now this is amazing. This is brilliant here. So why did he smash them? Because I'll say because the Isis flew back, it was too heavy to carry, so he smashed them. He smashed them. Now, Later on, when he's told to come back up the mountain for the Luchas Shneas, Martin, what's he told? Yeah, we're laying on a fast day. Here we are. Go and chisel out 2 luchas like the first ones. Bring them at the mountain. And I'll write on them what was on the first one. But here, we come up early in the morning, and Har Sinai, and stand there, and no one should be around when you come up. So Hashem said to him, I'll write on the second luchos the words which were on the first ones, Asher Shibarto, which you smashed. Chazal say, because Baruch actually gave him a bracha. He said, Yeyashe koichecha, your strength should be increased because you smashed them. That's the Chasam Sofer. Why did Hashem give him that bracha when he came up with the second luchos? Should have given it, if that was right. Chazal said that was the right thing to do, by the way. Because Baruch said to him, Moshe, you were right for smashing them. Yeyashe koichecha Shibarto. Why did he not give him that shkoyach when he did it at the first luchos? Why does Hashem wait till he tells him to make the second luchos? Then he gives him a bracha. Moshe, your strength should be great and increased, and you did the right thing in smashing the first ones.
When he came down, what did he really smash them for?
Chazal said the just flew back. They were too heavy. They were too heavy. Couldn't carry them.
So then why he didn't actually smash them?
Well, it was too heavy. He let go.
Yeah, but he didn't smash them.
Okay. Says the Chasam Sofer is brilliant. He said, how could a Kodesh Baruch Hu ask him to bring up 2 blocks of stone up the mountain, and I'll write on them the description which was written on the first luchos? Without the words on it, he couldn't carry them. That's why he smashed the first ones. Says the Chasam Sofer, that's why Kodesh Baruch Hu gave him the bracha now. He gave him a bracha of extra koyach, and now he'll be able to bring the 2 blocks of stone back up the mountain, because he only smashed them, he didn't have the koyach for it. So when the oasis flew off, he smashed them. So now he was given the bracha now, so to enable him to bring the 2 luchas back up, because the Maisa, they were too heavy to carry, but with this extra rush, he was now able to bring the second ones back up the mountain. Now, just finish off one thing, two more things, 2 little nakudas. One is, so the next day, after he smashed the egel, and he ground it down to the dust, he threw it into the water, and he tested them like soitas. Anyone who inside never actually worshipped it, but was happy about it, got affected by the water. The Bnei Levi killed 3,000 people who actually served Avodah Zarah proper, and there was a Magefa on the others, so the perpetrators are gone. Now look at this. Amazing Ben Ish Chai. Vayihimi Macharos, the next day, Vayim Moshe La'am, he says to the people, Atem chatosim chatar gedolah, you've done a terrible thing here. I'm going to go back up the mountain to Hashem. Ulai, perhaps, achapro ba'ad chataschem. Maybe. Ulai. Kenzai. I might be able to get a kapara for you. Look at this. Unbelievable. Vayoshev Moshe Hashem vayemeh. He goes back up the mountain and he says, Ona chotah ha'amazeh chatar gedolah. This people has indeed sinned a great sin. Vayasu lehem elehei zahav. Is that the sort of thing you thought Moshe would say? And then Moshe changes his tone completely. He says, "You've got to forgive them. If not, take my name out of the Torah. If I can't save Klal Yisrael, I'm not worth 2 pence. Someone say me, take my name out." It's a very change of tone of voice. First he says, he says, "They sin terribly." And then next person changes completely his tone. So the version, you've got to forgive them. You've got to forgive them. What happened? Says the Ben Ish Chai, when Moshe Rabbeinu went back up to Shemayim, so he's in the base of Shalma'ala, the Sultan came in. The Sultan here had his chance now. He's got his chance. He got the whole Klal Yisrael to sin, or at least participate in a sin. So Moshe Rabbeinu had to get the Sultan out of there. How's he going to get the Sultan out of there? Sultan is the prosecution. So Moshe Rabbeinu worked out what to do. Plead guilty. So he said, pleading guilty. So the Sultan didn't need to stay there anymore. Yeah? The what do you call it, the solicitor for the defense pleaded guilty. So he said the Sultan therefore left the base in Shamala. Once he got him out of the room, got him out, Moshe Rabbeinu said, right, you got to forgive Klal Yisrael. Once he's got rid of the Kidron from the Sultan, he then changed his tone and he done 40 days, 40 nights to get a kapara for Klal Yisrael. Now, when did HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually forgive Klal Yisrael. It was not the end of the second 40 days, the end of the 30 to 40 days. V'yem Hashem, salachti kidvarecha. So Rashi says, and that day was fixed as a day of Salicha u'Mechila. Now, and therefore they made it came Yom Kippur. I don't understand something. Yom Kippur is one of the mitzvahs in the Torah. So Yom Kippur only came about because of the Here you go. Look at the words. The words are brilliant. The day was supposed to be Yom Kippurim. Right? So it was always going to be a day of Kapena. That's what it was always going to be. What was added now? V'yem Hashem, salachti kidvarecha. Machalti. It became a day of not only just Kapara, but Slicha and Mechila. That was added because of the Here. So that's why we take it. So what do you say Yom Kippur? Slach lanu, Mechal lanu, Kapel lanu. Because those are the three things now which all happen on Yom Kippur. It would have been Yom Kippurim. That's what it's always going to be. A day of Kapara was always meant to be. Was added now because after the Egel, Slicha and Mechila. Do you want to know what the difference is? I can't remember the top of my head. There's three different types of atonement which are needed. One is just to block out the kids' room. One is to actually wipe away the Chet. They're all three different things. But that's what happened. That was what was added after the Chet Ha-Egel. Just to finish off, right at the end of the Sedra, it talks about the Moshe Rabbeinu sort of recaps the main points of Yiddishkeit, and he talks about the Shalosh Regalim, and he says you got Pesach, then Chag Shavuos, Shavuos time the ripening of the wheat, the Chag HaOsif to Kufas Hashana, and you've got Sukkos. Rashi says what's Kufas Hashana? The beginning of the next year. B'tchilas Shana Haba, the beginning of the next year. It's in Tishri. But in Mishpatim, it says V'chag HaOsif B'tseis Hashana, at the end of the year. So why is it changed? Why is it changed? It's in Mishpatim it calls Sukkot the end of the year. And now in Kisisa, after the Cha'ega, it calls it Shkufet Hashana, the beginning of the next year. So says, I saw a very clever, a sefer, very, very interesting thought. He said, Kosh Baruch Hu originally wanted there should be a Yom Tov in every month of the calendar. So he said, Pesach is Nisan, Pesach Sheni is Iyar, Shavuos is Sivan, Tammuz of Elul Tishri should have been Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Shemini Atzeret. One in each month. Along came the Egel though in Tammuz, and it messed things up. So Kosh Baruch Hu put them all into Tishri. They all got pushed into Tishri where they came down. So he said, Al Pi Cheshbon, before the Egel, Sukkot would have been in Elul. The end of the year, that's in Mishpatim, how it should have been. But now after the Egel, it's all been shoved into Tishri. So now it's Chag HaOsif, B'tkufas Hashana, B'tchilas Shana Haba. Now it's in the first month of the new year, in the following Tishri. That's why it changes. Another thing changed is, the Torah gives an open promise now. In Kisisa, when you come Oile Regel, the Goyim will not attack the country, even though everybody's left their homes. The whole country is empty, everyone's in Yerushalayim. No Goy will come along and attack your country while you're away. So why do they need that promise now? So it says the Meshech Chochmah. Had they got the first luchas and held on to them, they were free from the Malach HaMavos. They would reach such a level of Kedusha, possibly no Goy would have ever shepherded with them again. That would have been the end of anti-Semitism. But they blew it with the Egel. So now they needed a promise that when you come and do this mitzvah, you won't lose out from it, the Goy won't attack. Now, there's a very, very famous, I think he's still alive, a very famous Bali Tshuva in Eretz Yisrael called Uri Zoya. Yeah? Uri Zoya was the epitome of Israeli society. He was a paratrooper, he was a film star, he was everything. And he became from. How did he become from? Tells a story. A friend of his became from and had a baby boy. So he invited his old friends to the bris. At the bris, there was this Yerushalmi sitting there. Might be the boil, don't know. And his friends thought it was quite funny, this Haredi sitting at the table, and they were like trying to chep this Yerushalmi with questions. He says his friends didn't realise, he said, but I chapped, he said he wasn't getting flustered and he was actually answering the questions very well. And he said because he felt the questions were answered properly, even though they were being disrespectful, he said, he began to start thinking. And so he took a chumash and he started going through it. And being a soldier, he said, this is what caught his attention. He said, there's this promise of Lo Yachmod Ishis Artzecha. So he checked up about it. How many years did the Yidden come Oile Regel? So it was approximately 850, the Bais Rishon, and then again the Bais Sheni. So he realized that the Torah must be true. The Torah can make a promise in the Midbar. Hashem makes a promise in the desert. For 850 years it happened. They came over Regel, and no one ever attacked the country. He said this mitzvah convinced him the Torah is emes, and he's going about Tshuva because of it. Quite amazing. Quite amazing. You never know which pasuk resonates with a person. It gives you a chizuk, right? But for him, it was this pasuk of which made him because of Tshuva. Okay, guys, we'll stop there. Be'ez Hashem. Yeah, next week we'll continue. I'm not sure we'll do the Chumash side of it, but we'll continue Hilchos Pesach and Avos Chesed V'Lieda, and we'll think of another sefer to do between now and Pesach.